In this video we're going to be talking about sole traders, partnerships and limited liability. You need to know for your exam what each of these are, the differences between them, and why a business would choose to possibly be a sole trader or a partnership instead of something like a private limited company. So starting with sole traders. Simply, a sole trader is a business owned by one person. So any business where there is a singular owner, there is a singular manager who runs everything, that is classified as a sole trader. It's pretty easy to understand, and the basic thing that you need to know is that sole traders have unlimited liability. So this means that any money that the business incurs as debt, so any money that the business has that it owes to a supplier or the bank or whoever, unlimited liability means that the owner is responsible for that debt. So if the business has £50,000 worth of debt, that means the owner of the business, the sole trader, also has £50,000 worth of debt. So if the business can't pay, the owner has to pay, and that might be through their own savings or through things that they own, such as a house or a car or assets. They have to be taken away. So that is unlimited liability, and clearly that is a massive risk. So some people are put off from being sole traders because of the risk of having unlimited liability. So having unlimited liability is not something that you want to have, but unfortunately is what you're forced to if you want to be a sole trader. Partnership. Well, there are many famous partnerships. Quite simply, a partnership is a type of business where you have partners who share the profit and loss, where you work together. So a partnership is where you have a business owned by more than one person. Each person has a say in how the business is run. It's usually between 2 and 22 people. So you can have these massive partnerships with 15, 16, 17 people in them. Just imagine how long that would take to make a decision if you had 17 people all trying to decide on, I don't know, should we change the name of our company or should we swap supplier? So ideally, if you are going to be in a partnership, you'd want maybe sort of 2 or 3, 4 people, because being in a partnership can slow things down a bit. The decision-making process can slow down if you have to consult with everyone. And as a partnership, you've got lots of people to offer advice, you've got lots of people to put money into the business, but at the same time you've got lots of people who want to take a share of the business as well. So that means any profits that you make have to be shared equally between all of the partners. And again, just like a sole trader, partnerships have unlimited liability. So exactly the same thing as before. Any debt that the business has, all the partners are eligible to pay that debt. So if you are in a partnership, and let's say it's you and one other person, and they run the business wrong, they cause a lot of debt, it's your responsibility and their responsibility. You both take the debt on. So you have to be very careful with who you choose to go into partnership with, because if they don't run the business properly, if you don't trust them, then you are going to be liable for their debt. So both sole trader and partnership have unlimited liability. We then move on to the limited companies. So the easiest way to think about it is if it has the word limited in the title, then that means it has limited liability. Easy enough. So private limited company is one that has shares, but the only people that can buy the shares are friends and family of the business owner. So you can raise money through selling shares. That's a positive thing because you can raise more income. However, you can only sell your shares to people you know, to people that you've met, to friends and family. So you're not on the stock market. And through its very name, a public limited company, just like a private limited company, public limited, they have limited liability. So public limited is one of those companies where you can sell your shares to anyone on the stock market, still to friends and family, but you can sell it to people you don't know as well. So public limited is when you can sell your shares to anyone and it's on the stock market. Private limited means that you can only sell it to friends and family, but both of them have limited liability, so that's obviously a positive. So let's just think of some evaluation points now. So thinking about sole traders, you may be asked in your exam to discuss, should someone move from being a sole trader to being a partnership, or from being a sole trader to being a private limited company? And you have to think of the positives and negatives of this. What would be good? What would be bad about it? So starting with a sole trader. Sole traders, the positive is that you get to keep all of the profits yourself. You're the owner, so you can decide how the business is run, so it can be very quick to make decisions. You don't have to ask anyone else, you don't have to consult with anyone else, and you don't have to share any of those profits. So it's a quick, easy way to run a business. But on the downside, there's massive downside, is that it's very risky. That word risk is very important. Because you have unlimited liability, it means that if it's just you running the business yourself, chances are, if you're a sole trader, you probably don't have a lot of money. It's probably quite a small company. So running this business where you have unlimited liability means that you could find yourself in a huge amount of personal debt because of that. And running your own business can be very stressful. It takes up a lot of time. Because you're not sharing responsibilities with anyone else, it means that it's going to probably take up a lot of your time. You may not have a lot of free time, you may not have time to see your friends and family. So on one hand, the rewards can be massive because you take all the profit yourself, but the downside is you've got no one to share things with, you've got unlimited liability, all the pressure is on you. Moving to partnerships, positives of that is, as I said earlier, you share responsibility. So you can share ideas with your partners. Let's say there's 4 of you, that's 4 different ideas. You share responsibility. So if you can't work, someone else can run the business instead, one of your partners. It's an easier way to raise money, because instead of just one person putting money into the business, you've got 4 or 5 or 6 people putting money into the business. So you can raise funds easier than you could as a sole trader. The downsides are that you've got to share all of your profits. Although on the flip side of that, not only do you share profits, you share debt. So each person maybe doesn't have to pay off as much debt. If you've got 4 of you sharing debt, well, that's better than one person having all the debt. But as I said, you do also have to share all the profits, so each individual person is going to have less money. Another downside is that you may argue over how the business is run. This can slow things down, because if you're trying to come up with a decision, if you're a sole trader, you make that decision yourself. If you're a partnership with 4 or 5 people, you've got to consult with each other first. So decision making can be slower than as a sole trader. Another big downside, as with a sole trader, you've got unlimited liability. So again, that risk is massive. You can run up huge amount of debt that you are personally liable for. And then moving on to private limited company. Now this has the massive advantage of being a private limited company that by its name it has limited liability. That removes a huge amount of risk. That means that any debt the business incurs, any debt the business has, that debt is the responsibility of the business and not you as the owner. So you are luckily not personally responsible for that debt. So that's the big advantage of being a private limited company. Also, because you're able to sell shares in your business, that's another way you can raise money. So it opens up the option of selling shares to friends or family as a way to raise money. But again, as a downside, you have to share your profits. So the more shares that you sell, that's more people that you're going to have to share your profits with. So even though you might be the only person who runs the business, there may be people that you have to share your profits with. Plus, if you end up working with friends or family because they are shareholders, they may feel like they want to offer some suggestions. Your mum or your dad or whoever might try to get involved in the business because they are now shareholders, and this can cause issues between family members, between friends, and also, well, they may not be experienced in business, so their suggestions may quite honestly not be very good, and again may cause issues there. Plus, another downside that might seem a bit strange, but imagine you're trying to get funding from a bank. You want to get a bank loan. If you have limited liability, you've got less risk, and banks can sometimes be less likely to lend money to a private limited company. Because you've got limited liability, they think, oh, well, if I give you money, you're not going to be that bothered to pay it back because, oh, well, you've got limited risk. However, they're more likely to lend money maybe to a sole trader or a partnership because they have unlimited liability. So that the bank might think, well, hang on, they're definitely going to give us the money back because they are personally responsible for that debt, and so they're going to work harder to give the money back. So it can actually be slightly harder to get loans from being a private limited company. And then finally, we've got public limited company. Now, this doesn't normally come up in the exam simply because to be a public limited company, you have to make a certain amount of money. You have to be quite large, and usually the exam focuses on smaller businesses. But obviously, the massive advantage of being public limited is that you can sell your shares to anyone, so you can raise huge amounts of money. But the downside to that is the more shares you sell, the more you've got to split your profit. So if you've got thousands of shareholders, that is thousands of people that you're going to have to share all of your money with. Plus, to become a company like that, a public limited company, it does require a lot of paperwork and a lot of time to set up. The easiest type of business to set up is a sole trader. It simply takes a few hours, a little bit of paperwork, and it gets more complicated as you sort of move up. So partnerships, a bit more complicated, private limited, a bit more complicated, and then finally public limited is the most complicated to set up. So those are the 4 types of business that you need to know for your exam, and you should know not only what they are, but also the positives and negatives that are associated